So I've got this is going to be a class that's going to be broken up in a couple of sessions. And the reason being is just it would be too crazy to try to do it in into one. But I wanted to show you, since it's February, this is the second day of February, and I think it's Groundhog Day, right?
Yes.
Yay. So I've got my watercolors out, and I made these woven hearts out of the watercolor washes. And I thought that would be fun to construct some things like that, but we'll do that next Wednesday. We'll do some more things next Wednesday, but I wanted to do some washes with you today. And washes come in there's many ways to do washes. So what I thought, I think I mentioned you wanted to have at least two pieces of paper, at least 8 by 10, but that's just if you want to do the hearts. If you want to just do some fun washes, you can have them any sizes you want. I've got my paper that I'm not really fond of. There's this it's like a student grade paper, and it's not as good as Canson XL. Canson XL is really good. This is the Fabriano, and it's made in Italy. And I'm not really excited about the paper for just doing my favorite watercolor. So I'm going to just do some fun washes and backgrounds with this paper. I don't know, I got some paint on it. I don't know where I got that. So what we're going to do is, if we have some watercolor pieces, sheets of watercolor paper. If you don't have watercolor paper, just any kind of papers that you don't mind doing some washes on. Of course, a watercolor paper is better. Get that color out of there real quick. Watercolor paper, a cold press or hot press, but I think cold press is always more fun. Lots of water. Make sure you have lots of water. I'm going to also use some black watercolor paper just for fun, because I happen to have some. And I've got a little board here that I can just set my papers on. This is going to be kind of messy. I did some this morning, and boy, I made a mess all over my kitchen counter. I also have some trays. Now, these trays I've had since I was in college. These are vintage. They're just little enamel trays. And I don't even remember where I got them. I got them at an art supply store, and I love them. I haven't used them in a while, and I'm going to be doing large washes, so I thought I'd bring those out. But if you have a plate, something like a large area to mix color. Let's see what else you need. I think a spray bottle's good to have, and also your favorite watercolors, or watercolors that you haven't used in a while. Like this is actually a set that I bought. It's called Mission. It's Mission Gold, Mission Gold, and they're really gorgeous colors, and they're mostly transparent colors. And I wanted to tell you about how I do these, which I think would be fun for us to do sometime coming up, maybe next month. But what I did is I took a black permanent paint, and I brushed along the swatch card before I started painting. So basically, I made my little squares or rectangles in pencil. Then I did this little black kind of thing, this opaque black line, just a brush line. And the reason I did that is and then I waited for it to dry, and then I did my washes. Now, or I swatches basically. Now, what I can see, and I don't know if you see this, but you can see this yellow here. It's called yellow permanent. So you see how much it covered that black. This will tell you a transparent color or a translucent color or semi-transparent over a opaque color. Now, there's no true opaque colors here because they don't cover the black completely, but this one and this one are pretty, I can see a lot of the color on top of the black. So that's a really great way to test your watercolors, especially if you have a set that does not give you color names, like you get a set, they're just in the palette and you don't know. This is always a really great way to test your colors to see if they're, looks like I got something more color on I don't know how I did that, but anyway. I'm just gonna grab, so I don't know where that paint come from, but of course I did make a mess this morning, who knows what. So if you have whatever you have in your watercolors, also, like I have these colors I just squeezed out of into these half or these full pans. And these are pretty much transparent colors. They're very good mixing colors. I think the first 12 colors in this set are the Daniel Smith mixing color set. I bought it on Amazon a couple weeks ago, and they're just basic colors, but they're meant for mixing, so they're transparent. And then I also have my little set I put together with my metallic handmade colors. You know, I've got some other colors I wanted to play with, like these are some Japanese bonsai watercolors from Japan. They're metallics, and there's some just different colors. I wanted to try those. So get your colors out. We're gonna make a mess. We're gonna do lots of washes. I'll show you the different types of washes that we will be doing. You don't really need masking tape if you don't want to, you know, if you don't want to, I mean, you could tape your papers down, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to paint directly on to the onto this. I'll make a mess, but I've got some paper towels, and I forgot, I got to get my baby wipes. So if you have baby wipes, they're coming so handy to be able to wipe off like your board to go to the next paper. So I also have these core watercolors, and core is a really, it's made by Golden. And they have their colors. I love their colors because they dry. They don't have a lot of shift. They don't lighten up when they dry, but they're pretty neat because they have a different medium inside them. So, all right. So we're gonna get started. First one we're gonna do is a wet into wet. We're gonna do. That's our first little thing that we're gonna try. Now, I've got my. I could do mask it off just to keep it in line. I'm just going to grab a little bit of masking tape. And this is tell you about, if you like to, I mean, there's so many masking tapes out there, but this one is called Pro Drafting Tape. And it's something I think I got on Amazon too. Everything I get everything on Amazon. This one, I'm going to mask it, tape it on this side. This is a great tape for the price. It doesn't leave bleed, you know, like lines. I'm not going to try to cover up much of my edge here. I'm just going to tape it down because I don't want it buckling too much. So I'm going to just do a little right here. And I'm so glad that Beth is doing, thank you. And I really wanted to just say to Beth, thank you for doing this for the class, because while I'm teaching, I feel like you all can be conversing and chatting, like, because it is a club, you know, we're here and we can interact with each other, and it's kind of hard for me to do that while I'm teaching. So in a real world, if I were teaching a class, which a couple of you I think have taken my classes in person, we have a lot of interaction as a group. We get together and we talk and we interact, and it's different. This is just different. So I'm hoping that having Beth doing this is going to help us be more of a community. And also just to make the teaching part go smooth. And then it just makes it, I think it's going to be more fun, especially as we're growing. So that's a good thing. So I've just taped off this here. Now, what I like to do, and I didn't do this beforehand, is I usually I have this is filled with distilled water. And I like to spray the back, or sometimes even on good paper. This is really not the best paper because I don't know if it's 100% cotton. I think it's probably got some paper pulp in it. They do say it's acid free. But I like to wet my paper or dampen it and let the fibers swell. So I'm going to do that to this one just before I get started. I'm just going to spray the back. You can spray both sides. I'm just going to spray it and let the fibers swell on the. So this one's dry, completely dry on this side, and this one is going to be moistened. And I'm going to let those fibers, or the paper fibers, swell up. That's just going to give it some time because it takes a while for the water to get in there. And I'm just going to let that sit. So this side is dry, and then I'll have a second one. Just get it prepared so it's it's just going to swell up, and that takes that actually makes your paper less buckling, because some papers just buckle like crazy. So I'm going to do my first wash that I'm going to share with you. And what I'm going to ask you to do, because of our project that we're going to do next week, you'll notice if you read the calendar, it said woven paper hearts. You want to do one wash that's sort of in the same color family, and then we're going to do some washes with two completely opposite color families. So that when you weave your hearts together, you'll get some really nice contrast. So this one I'm going to do in a cool color combination in blues. All of my blues. I'm going to take a bunch of different blues, which I have like maybe 3 or 4 blues in that. I'm just going to just kind of do just a dry, wet into dry wash. This is so if you wanted to write down on the back of your paper to start, like if you want to just write down on the back what you're doing, wet into dry, then you'll remember how you did it. So I didn't mark mine, of course, but I will later. I can just write, right after it dries, if I can remember how I did it. But that's why it's really good to document. If you're, if you're trying new things, just document it. So you can use a brush, any brush that you're comfortable with. Like I've got all these flat wash brushes. The largest brush you're comfortable with. I mean, you can even use these inexpensive hake brushes. These are sheep hair. They hold a lot of water. In fact, I like using these to get my first, when I want to do a wet into wet. I don't even put color in it, but we'll do that next because this is the dry, wet into dry. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my little tray. I'm going to make some room here. I take my little watercolor tray. I'm going to move my stuff out of the way because my table isn't big enough. That's the problem. Okay. So I've got my 2 sheets of paper here, got some watercolors and my tray, my mixing tray. So I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to use, I don't know, I'll pick some blue out of here. Maybe this first blue here. And the reason I love my full pans is look how I can get my wide brush into the pan without squishing the brush. So try that with a half pan and you're just it's a little harder. So I'm going to make up, just putting that color into my tray just to see how much I have. Now I have a pretty large piece of paper here. So I'm going to give myself plenty of paint to work with. And I'm going to do like I say graduate, it's really a gradated wash anyway. I'm going to try to do it so that it goes from light to more dark, or I can do dark to light, whatever works. So I'm going to take another blue. I think I'm going to take a turquoise blue. No, I don't know what that one is, but let's see, what's this blue? I don't even know. Okay, that is more of an ultramarine. So I've got a phthalo and an ultramarine, which are beautiful blues. The phthalo blue is a warmer blue, and the ultramarine is a cooler blue. And that's why Daniel Smith put together this set, because they wanted you to have mixing colors on the cool, on warm sides, but still transparent. So I've got phthalo and ultramarine. That's all I'm going to do in this wash. So I'm going to start with the ultramarine because my brush is already filled with it. I'm going to start at the top, or I can do the whatever side I want, but I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start, and I'm just going across, and you can see it's kind of dry because there's some texture. I'm creating texture with the, you can see the texture of the paper underneath. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to dip my brush in a little water, and I'm going to move over to the phthalo blue, and I'm just going to continue the wash down the page. And I'm just going to go ahead and maybe add some more water so I can get a sort of a little lighter color. Of course, it's all pretty, a little bit lighter. So I'm going to dilute it somewhat, and I'm just going lighter. And I'm going to I'm going to also, so you can see the 2 different blues. They're just so different. One is one of a greenish color or a cooler color. I guess, I don't know if you can make a cool blue, but now I just switched over to the ultramarine, and I just made myself a very nice soft wash, but it's dry paper with a wet wash. And I didn't want to puddle too much. Now when you're doing this, be sure to have just enough water to wet the paper, but not so much water that it becomes puddly, when you have big puddles. If you find that you have a puddle, if you do get puddly, I'm going to show you my little trick on taking care of that. So if you have a brush, like I've got this round brush here, I'm going to take a paper towel, and I'm going to make sure it's really dry. I'm going to have it wet. I wet it first, and then I make sure I dry off as much as I can. And if I have a puddle somewhere, like there's some puddling going on the tape, so I'm going to show you. You can use the brush to actually lift. It actually pulls up the color like a straw. When you don't have anything in it, you can actually pull that color up. I can do this also on the side. I'm going to just get gently. Of course, it's really lifting a lot, so I'm going to leave that alone. And that is my first wash. Very pretty, very, and I've got lots of color here. I don't want to lose that. So, because there's plenty of color to work with on another one. So no loss if you have a bunch of color in your tray. So the next one is the wet into wet wash. So I've got this paper. It's pretty damp, but the fibers have swollen pretty nicely. So I'm going to dab. I'm actually going to just blot off the extra water so that it's not puddling. I'm going to lay it here. I'm going to just turn this around so you can see this. Oh, something just hit the floor. Yep, there it goes. So now I've got this here. Now I don't want any there. Now, if you, whatever papers you have, if you have a paper that's like, this is kind of delicate, it's not the most, like I said, it's probably half cotton, half pulp or something. But I'm going to also tape that edge just enough to kind of tape it down to hold it in place. And also it kind of keeps the surface of the board from getting too much paint on it. I'm just doing a little edge, just a tiny, that's probably a 1/16 of an inch edge. And I'm going to do this all the way around. So take your paper, and if you have small postcard sizes, whatever you've got to make these washes. The reason I'm doing a slightly bigger one is the hearts that you're going to make. If you choose to make the hearts, the big ones will need this size. This is a 6x9, or you can do a 6x8. If you want to just use 5x7s, we'll all have templates for smaller hearts. So you'll be getting templates from me by the end of the week. You'll be getting these really neat templates that you can trace and cut out your hearts. So here's what I'll do for the wet into wet. So I've got my wet, this is my brush that I just use for water. I don't put any color on it. And it's my little sheep hair brush. I've got it nice and wet, but I don't have it dripping wet because we don't want that. So we're just going to take it, the color.
I'm taking a watercolor class right now.
And
can I call you back in a half an hour?
That's somebody who.
Don't forget it.
Why?
Yeah, yeah. That I heard somebody's conversation, and I don't think they wanted me to hear it. Okay, so here we go. Nice. It's wet, and if I'm going to turn it so you can see how it's shiny like that? It's shiny, but there's no dripping puddles. So that you just want to have it like that. No dripping. And if it does, you can keep this brush is really handy if it doesn't have color in it. You just, keep that, use that brush to keep your paper wet. And that's how you kind of keep that together like that. So still no drippies. And if it starts to dry, just use your brush to re-moisten that area. Now this is a wet into wet, and with wet into wet, I'm going to start with the same color just because I have it. I don't want to waste my color. So I'm going to take my blue, and I'm going to just this time drop it in instead of doing it like this. I'm just going to drop it in random places just to get that blue. Just kind of let it. I'm not even painting. I'm just letting that color move, and it will actually move on its own. So I've got these little random shapes here, just dropping the color in, and I'm going to take some turquoise because I'm keeping it in the same family. This is a turquoise color. I'm just going to put, it's a really gorgeous phthalo turquoise, and I'm putting that in and watching the color spread. Every color has its own personality, like if it's some are more spreading than others, and it's really fun to get to know your watercolors in this kind of way, just by trying different things. Now that's spreading beautifully, and it's going to keep spreading. I won't have to manipulate or do anything more, but I'm going to add another color just because I want to add another color. I'm going to add in the same, I've got some, I think this is cerulean blue, and I'm going to pick up some cerulean blue, and I'm just going to drop it in the areas here and there. Now I'm noticing cerulean blue just sits there. It's not moving. It doesn't move and push the colors out like the others do. So I'm just going to let that sit, and it's going to do what it's going to do. It will keep moving and migrating and spreading as it goes. So this is where I just have to be patient. I don't want to manipulate it anymore or put any more brush strokes on it, because we tend to, we'll see it and go, oh, there's white here, but it's going to dry so much differently than what it is now. You can see already this blue is drying differently. So you'll see it dry. It's pretty wet there, but you can see how there's a puddle here and there. Now that puddle, because that bothers me a little, let's see how but I'm not going to worry about it so much. But if you want to tilt your paper, so you can see how it's moving and it's dripping, which is great for wet skies. Let's say you're doing a watercolor rainy, stormy sky. You can take your paper and just let the paint move across. You can see it's moving. I hope you can see that. I can see it. And if you want it to go in different directions, just do it in different directions. Just let it, let it do its thing. And it's fun to watch what happens. So I'm going to let that sit for a bit, and I'm going to go to another board here. And I love these little masonite panels for this. I'm going to grab some more paper, and we did a wet into wet. Now we'll do a dry wash. It's really just a dry brush, and it's really not a wash in the same way. I'm going to still tape off this just because, why not? You don't have to tape off your edges, but it just makes it a little easier to work with, especially if you're doing these boards. But I'm just going to make sure I have enough room to make my woven hearts. So I'm making them just the right enough space here on that. And I'll show you the woven. I think I did show it to you earlier. So you'll see, the more contrasty colors you make, the more interesting your hearts are going to be. So now that I've done enough cool colors, I'm going to do some reds and pinks and purples, something kind of fun like that. So we'll do some reds. Take some of your red colors, oranges, any of your warmer tones. So I'm going to rinse and brush out. I've got a lot of blue in my water, which could be a problem. That might make my oranges and reds and pinks kind of not so good. So what you could do, if you would like, if you're going to switch from your cool colors and you're going to go over to warm colors, or might be good. This one I won't worry about. There's a little blue in there. It's not too bad, but I will switch over to a different. I'll just change my water out, which it won't take long to do. But I'm going to go ahead. Now these are my mixing reds here. I've got a pyrrole red and a quinacridone rose. No, that's quinacridone magenta and pyrrole red. These are transparent reds. I'm going to just take it straight out I'm going to just take it straight out. Now I could just look and see what I've got. Because if I wanted a lighter tone, you want to just dilute it with water. And just going to put that color in there. And I'm just going to go in, this is dry brush. It's like a dry brush. So I'm just going to I can go random, kind of like this, until the paint runs out, basically. I'm just going to go through the thing, or you can make a pattern if you want, like a plaid pattern. If you kind of like that idea of making something more like a pattern. So I'm just randomly, I'm doing this on purpose so I can see the dry texture of the paper surface. I'm just going to go around, just like this, okay? And now I'm going to do the same with the other color, the pyrrole red, which is it's a beautiful red. It's a little warmer, but it's still transparent. So whatever I do over the other is, here we go. So just dry brushing. And you can do it swirls if you want. You can do anything you want until we're going to get most of the surface covered. Is what kind of a nice, you can see some of the stuff is blending and beautifully, but it's giving me a nice texture. Now I've got this other red. This is a beautiful, I think this is the pyrrole red. I apologize. This is pyrrole red here. This was quinacridone red, and that other one was quinacridone magenta. All right. So now I'm going to do the same. Just going to try to kind of a dry brush until the color runs out. But I don't want to scrub. I'm doing this lightly. I'm not pushing down on the paper much. just going to get most of the surface of this paper covered without leaving like obvious lines and obvious patterns. So you can see that. I think that looks really pretty. I think I might want to just try it. I don't know what this color is. That might be an ochre. Let me look here. Oh, yeah, I don't want that. Not for this one, maybe later. So I've got another color called Opera. This is one of my favorites. I think it's in this tray here. I think it's in that one. Opera is like, it's a staining. It's not a staining necessarily. It doesn't have a lot of longevity, but I'm not worried about putting it in a museum, so no worries. I'm just gonna take this, and I've got a little pink, opera pink, and it's pretty wet though, so I'm gonna try not to make it too wet because I want some of that texture of the paper showing through. I've got most of it covered, and I'm kind of liking that. I think it's, so this is our dry on basically wet into dry. It's more of a dry brush technique. It's not really a wash, but so you can see how I've got this really nice texture and the colors are really dancing together really nicely. And I'm hoping that you could get the same joy, and it's very energetic and it's really fun. So I'm gonna let that dry. Let that dry. I'm gonna get another piece. I'm gonna do some yellows, like some intense orangey yellows or something really warm. And I'm going to do this, like just tape it off, and this will be also a dry, kind of dry. We're going to also do some glazing too. So whatever, if we have some layers that are dry, we're going to go back to those. So I'm just going to tape off this a little bit, and all the way. If you want a nice little border, this is a great way to do it. So just taping this off, but this time I'm not going to go all the way around. I just want to tape it down. So with this one, I'm going to use what was I going to use here? I've got my flat wash brush. That's a wide one. That's about an inch. That's an inch wide. So I think I'm going to try, I've got a different brush here. If I can grab that. I've got a little tiny, it's like a little half-inch flat. So this is half the width of the other. I just want to play with that. I'm going to go for, this time I'm going to take the warmer, I got something. I'm going to take the warmer colors, the yellows, the oranges, and maybe the red, but mostly yellows and oranges, and maybe some gold color. And just put some color on there. So I'm going to pull out the lightest color first, and this is a Hansa yellow. And this time I'm going to just do as wet. This brush is filled with lots of water, so I'm just filling the brush with lots of water and just kind of doing a pattern. Very bright, and I'm going to just crisscross. Very loose, I'm kind of wiggling it. It's like a wavy plaid. So there, like that, my yellow. And I'm going to take the next color, which is this orange. It's actually New Gamboge, I think. It's very warm. And I'm going to kind of go in between while it's still wet because I want the colors to bleed together. I'm just going as fast as I can. I'm not drawing. I'm not thinking of any drawing or design. Just do it like that. You can do swirls or squiggles, anything you want. Now this is a transparent orange. I'm going to kind of go in between. And I'm going to cover the surface while it's still wet. Oop, there we go. So I'm really basically doing a kind of a wet into wet, dry. It's just an interesting way to just get some color down. Now this is a pretty color. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to use, that looks like a quin gold. So I'm going to go ahead and put some quinacridone gold in there. Okay, so this is one way that we could move color. Now it needs a little more something. So I'm going to take my spray bottle and I'm just going to spritz it very lightly. You can also add water this way, and now you can see things are moving around a little differently with that. And I'm going to take some of this gorgeous orange, and I do want to get all the areas covered. So I'm just going to go around through here like this. And what I could do Let's take my big wash brush here that's clear, doesn't have anything in it, and I can just kind of move the color around so that I basically want to get rid of all those little white spaces. Just gently moving. I'm not trying to, here we go. Yeah, I like that. I think that's fun. Now, while it's wet, I like the keeping everything in the same color range. But we're going to do another one next. We're going to do complementary colors and have them touch each other. And that'll be our last piece. So this one, I'm going to just probably, since I like this orange, I think, in yellow, I think it's gorgeous. So I'm going to add some more yellow. And just get all the white spaces gone. There, it's gone. So there, I've got a nice soft thing, and it will look way different when it's dry. So I'm going to set that aside. I don't have any more paper space here. So what I have here, just so you can see we've got blues, pinks or reds, and yellow. So we're really kind of doing a primary color thing here. Now, one more sheet, and that's the end of this. I wanted to do some complementary colors. I'm going to grab this one more sheet, and I've got one more board to work on. If you don't have a board, just put it on, just pick it up. I'm just trying to make this easier to show you, but you don't need all these boards to do this. So this is for the complementary color. We're going to do some watching the colors make their own new colors. I'm just going to do the same thing with just 2 pieces of tape just to get that done. Okay, now I'm going to wet it just like I did before, the wet and to wet. So I'm just going to wet it with my brush, my sheep hair brush. Or you can use anything you've got, a flat brush. And I'm going to use this round brush. So this big fat round brush just to get the colors in. So here I'm going to take these are my mixing colors. I'm going to take this yellow. And the reason I'm doing yellow first, because it's just going to be harder to clean the brush. So there's some yellow right there. And then I'm going to take my gamboge. I'm just going to put it kind of random places. There we go. And watching the colors spread is amazing. Now I'm going to take that orange, and I'm just kind of putting them next to each other like this. Like that. Let's see, maybe, okay. Next, I'm going to skip over the quinacridone gold, and I'm going to go to this beautiful pyrrole red. And just going to lay the color down. Now it's going to get crazier. Now as I go into, let's see, I'm going to go into this magenta. You can just a little bit here and there. I'm just putting them next to each other. I want to make sure I have room left for the the blues. Now I'm going to bring in some blue. I'm going to use this beautiful ultramarine, and I'm just going to put it in. I think that's the yellow. I'm just going to put it in, kind of not trying to let it, I want to go in the white spaces, because if I go over the yellow, it's just going to be green. So I'm just going to put the blues here, watch them spread. I'm not putting them in over the colors, but see how they're spreading, and they're going to just make new colors anyway. Let's see, what's the next one? I'm going to I think the blues are just all I need. And this is a lot of, there we go, just move those blues in, right in between in the white spaces, but letting it touch the other colors. So there we go. Now what's going to happen is you're going to see already the blues are making, here I'll just drop some blue there. The blues are making greens already just by moving around on the page. It's crazy. Like that. So you can see there's purple being made by the blues mixing with the red. And I'm just going to let that sit. It looks pretty bright. I'm going to add a little bit more blue just in here so that it will spread around. Yeah, I think that's enough. Right in there. Now this is where patience is a good thing. Just watch those colors make new colors. You can spritz, you can do little spritz, but I'm just going to leave that alone so you can see how it's going to spread. It's going to be crazy. Now the last but not least, because I have the black, I'm going to just grab some black paper wherever I put it. I know there it is. Just for giggles, I want to do some iridescent paint on the black. Iridescent watercolors. So if you have iridescent colors to play with, putting them in black on black is great. So I'm just going to grab, I don't know which side's which, but I'm going to put it right down there. And I'm going to pick up some of my iridescent paints that I bought. Some that I bought, like this one here, I wanted to try. And I have some stuff that came from Japan. I want to try that. Well, I didn't get it in Japan. It actually came from a store called The Paper Tree in San Francisco. But you can order it online. It's really beautiful stuff. It's called Gonzai Watercolors. And I'm gonna just play. Oh, yummy. These are interference colors. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna move them. I'm just gonna put them on the black paper, pick up different colors, whatever you have. If you have metallics, if you don't have black paper, black gesso first over the white paper, you can get the same thing. I'm just putting these colors down. I want to see what does what. This is like a great way to, oops, that's not the one I wanted. I wanted this one. It's called bronze, but it looks blue to me. So we'll see what it looks like on the black paper. Very bronze, very pretty. Just gonna, put the colors down and just play and see what I'm gonna get. And I'll do that with another, I'm just gonna go kind of random like that. That's called fern green, and this one's called copper. Ooh, it's a gorgeous color too. So metallics are amazing, just to have in your stash because they're so pretty, and really you can use them for so many things even on your white paper. They're still beautiful. So this is the silver, or it's called smoked silver. I'm just gonna dot it in here and there. And I'm gonna leave the whites or the black spaces here on this one just to see how that looks. And then I'm going to take my second, last but not least, I'm going to take this paper and I'm going to do the same thing with the same colors just to see what will happen. I'm going to do a wash, a wet into dry wash. So I'll start on this one side here. And then I'm going to take the next color work this color in while it's still wet. And I want to see how these colors blend together like that. I want to see. This is called sky blue. Wow.
What brand are those again?
These actually are Ito. Ito imports them. So, but you can get them. This came from the Paper Tree in San Francisco. So you can, which I know is a nice couple-hour drive for you, Melissa. But you could also, yeah, it's in China or Japantown actually. But if you wanted to order, they have them online, and I think they may be on Amazon. The company name is let me tell you, because it's not. Let me just tell you what these are from. That comes from, oh boy, it's not telling me. It's in Japanese. Okay, so I believe it's not Kuretake, but Kuretake makes also, just so you can see. Here's the Kuretake brand. I love these colors. They also have metallic colors. These are unusual because they dry kind of flat or matte. Oops, I got the copper out, but I didn't. Just want to see these blend. The one I'm thinking of, I'm trying to remember who they are. Oh well, it'll come to me. The brand will come to me. It is a very famous brand out of Japan, and like Yasutomo, there's two manufacturers, or actually three, that make these types of watercolors, and Yasutomo imports one, Ito imports one, and Kuretake direct sales. So, yeah,
They're very pretty.
I'm hoping that helped.
That helped a lot. Yeah, they're very pretty. There's so many lines. You're right.
I know, but they're called Gonzai. It's a special type of
Gotcha.
Gonzai, Gansai, and they're just unusual because they are more opaque. They're more staining than regular watercolors. So but they can be mixed with any watercolor. So I'm just gonna let that sit. But you can see this one is sort of drying already, and I'm really loving that. I think that's pretty. So the very last, and then we will stop. I wanted to talk to you about glazing. So let's say you have a color, you have a color that's dry, like that graduated wash is dry now. But you have to wait for it to dry to do any glazing. So let's say you want to have more intense colors. Like this one, you know, if this wasn't dark enough, or you want to just make it really like glaze, which gives you another depth, more depth and dimension. So I'm going to just do a little glaze. I'm going to use some blue, another layer of blue, but I'm not going to try to put too much blue. I'm just going to just show you how you can deepen your colors if you find that if they're just not quite right. So I got to clean my brush out, and boy, I have a dirty water container. I'm hoping I don't have to change it out. So I'm going to take some of the, this is the ultramarine blue, and I'm going to take my other tray here that has, you know, just like about a mid, not a lot, not real dark, but it's just kind of a mid tone of blue. It's not, you know, but you still have lots of water happening in here. Now I'm going to glaze this starting at the bottom of this. I'm going to move that out of the way. So just going to go, and I'm just doing another wash, but I'm going I don't want to disturb the layer underneath. So I'm just very gently brushing up with plenty of water. I'm just trying not to disturb that. And now what I'm going to do is just lighten that, make it a little bit lighter, and I'm just going to go down, and then I'll pretty much come to clear water at the end. There. So what I've just done is I've just created a deeper layer of color, and I can do this over and over until I get really, really dark. And you can do that. It's actually better to do that than to just do a really dark color, because then you can't go back. And sometimes when you just go really dark, one color only, like I've got some dark, like I don't know what that is. This is probably purple. No, I don't know what that is. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's like a really dark purple color. If you go too dark, then sometimes the color dies. Like you lose some luminosity with the light from the paper that shines through. Actually, is it's very important to still have some light, I think. And then you can always go darker later and then just build color. So there's that. So we've got a lot of washes here to deal with. I think this one came out nice. Now you can add some, if you wanted to just have a little fun, you can add, like I've got these beautiful colors that I was playing with earlier. These beautiful, I love these. Oop, my table's getting dirtier. Now I've got that gorgeous blue. I thought that was so pretty. I'm going to take it. I'm just going to spatter a little bit here, just for fun. A little bit of spatter as well. It's still kind of there's a combination of wet and dry in here. And that's going to give me a different texture. Now I'm going to tell you, you know how I've been just going crazy, spattering all over myself more than I am on my paper? I found this flat brush is keeping it very much under control. So, and it's really in a good spot. So if you have a flat brush like this, it doesn't have to be an inch. It can be smaller. So I think the flat wash brush is controlling. I'll try it with this little one. See if I get the same thing. I'm going to use the green. And if I can get the same control with the flat, then I'll know that I'm onto something. We'll see. So this one, yep, same thing. I've got control, much more control with this flat brush than I do with the round brushes. So, you know, use your flat brushes. You can use your flat brushes not only for washes, but you can also use it for this spattering, because spattering is so much fun. But I was finding my spatters I found spatters on the ceiling. That's how crazy it was. So I'm going to hit it with a little of this gold color. It's it says bluish gold. We'll see. I like these Gonzai watercolors because they do dissolve quickly. Ooh, yeah, nice. They dissolve quickly in the water, and you're good to go pretty quickly. So there, I've got some fun, sparkly stuff happening for my backgrounds, and then I can keep going. Now, the thing you could do, we won't do it today, but let's say you want to have more things happening like textures, or you want to write into it, or doodle, or just do some other things. You can do that when all your washes are dry. But these are really nice backgrounds to start. I'm going to show you this look, it's looking already. This is my black paper. So black on one side, and look at that. That is so pretty. And then we have this one with the fun textures. Now, if I wanted to spatter, because it just needs a little, I think it needs some, so I'm going to just do it because it's here, right? Might as well have it while my paint's out. If I can get some of that blue, I'm gonna just spatter a little bit while I'm here. I love, now, plenty of, it's like you have to have plenty of paint to make that happen, but I'm gonna spatter. Now I'm getting some messy now. The reason I'm getting messy is my brush is not wet enough. So it's not spattering the way I want. It's actually, there we go. So it's getting on my hands and everything. But there it is. I've got some spatters on that, and now I have a huge mess, and I hope you have a huge mess, because this is the beauty, the fun part. Now, so let all of your washes dry completely. If you need to flatten them, if they're too buckled, go ahead and flatten them in between books or something heavy. And then we're going to do some, I'm going to send you a template so you can see, so you can make your, cut out your hearts. So you can do these for other, use these for background papers. So this one, oh, and these are great to do in journals too. I love the way the pink, so this one's pretty dry. It's pretty dry, and I love the way it looks. This is pretty, it's pretty close to being dry, and you can see how the colors kind of blended together. I'm going to show you the one that was still not dry, but I want you to see it. I'm going to bring it in so you can see. This one, it's still not dry, so it's not yet ready to reveal, but I wanted you to see what's happening, how different it looks from when I first did it. I've got this subtle color mixes going on, just with the colors dancing together. This paper is not as friendly for that, this type of technique, because it just sort of goes into the grooves. But you know, good cotton paper would even be better. But you can see I've got a beautiful luminous brown tone, it's gorgeous. It's like I don't know what color, it's beautiful. And then this is like a kind of like a Payne's gray kind of mixture. I've got turquoise going on here. I've got some really fun colors, warm reds and greens being mixed. So basically, play with that. You see this nice brilliant green coming out of the mixture of the blue and the yellow? And it will still look even more soft after it dries completely. This kind of looks like a tomato to me, this little section. But these will turn into these gorgeous, we'll have some gorgeous hearts. I'll show you kind of give you a preview. I'm going to send you the 2 different sizes, or maybe even 3 different sizes of the templates. They will be basically 2 halves. So these come apart. I can't take it apart. They're hard to get once they're, you can see these, it's very simple. It's just weaving the 2 hearts together. So I'll send you 3 different sizes and maybe 3 different shapes of these. And then these are, I've actually covered them with shoe polish to really waterproof them. And I'm going to paint the backs because these I just made this morning. And I plan to paint the backs so that it looks good on both sides. And this I'm going to hang on my wall. But that, and then I did some writing after the fact. I just wrote many times over my paper, and I'll do that before I assemble the heart, because then you get these really nice contrasts of color. So you can see when you have opposite colors, they really look fun together. And then I'll edge this. I'll show you how I'll edge this with some, just to give it some depth. I think I edged these. So we'll do those next week. And we may, I'll show you how you can seal your watercolors without having to put glass over them. And this is something that you could do on not only on this type of watercolor, but just say you want to show a watercolor, but you don't want to put it behind glass. I'm going to give you techniques on how to do that. And for any watercolor painting, not just these little crafty hearts. So that is it. Yep.
Are we going to cut them out and weave them then, essentially?
Yes. Yep. With scissors, and that's all we'll need is scissors. And you want to trace I'm going to send you the templates, and you're going to trace the. You're going to use like a light source because the paper is thick. So I used a light box, but you can just use a window and just make. So basically, you're going to make 2 halves. They'll be opposites. So I'll explain those with the template. So you can make your own combinations of hearts, and then we'll have some nice Valentine gifts and decorations.